this might be a tough decision right now. My team did absolutely garbage.
NFL games that were like,
Right.
whoa.
I actually don't
Had
understand.
a lot of mixed feelings. Welcome, Disgruntled. We have another guest here on the Legal Domains.
Do I have enough space? Is the question. I have enough space.
It
Yeah.
can always get uploaded to the cloud if not.
We're gonna risk it. It's not gonna be 14 gigabytes. Welcome, Disgruntled. That was quite a intro talking about useless things, but this is week 2 recap plus week 3 predictions. We got co-host Tytoos again. But yeah, we're over Zoom again because Titus is still in Michigan.
Bro, you said I'm sorry, I have to backtrack, but you're like that was quite the intro talking about useless things as if you're not capable of editing. Like that does not bode well, Caleb.
Look, this is a raw podcast. I like to keep most of what we say in.
You like to
I don't
keep it raw.
I like to keep it raw. I like to
Alright.
keep it moist. You know,
All right, well.
documentary purposes, you already know. But I guess we gotta do some recapping. So do you want to go over the? Hold on, I have to get to the doc first. But do you want to go
Yeah.
over the games first, and then we can head into the MVP race?
Yeah, like we always do.
Yeah. You know.
So for those of you who don't know, we talked about last week's games, a little overview, how well our predictions went. Week 1 was bad. This week was a lot better, mainly for me. And then we talk about my MVP race because I keep up with that pretty in depth. And then we go over our predictions for the next week, which will be week 3. Really starting to figure out who's the fakes of the league right now. Who had like one good performance and now they're about to tank, or who had really bad performances and now they're going to start to get their shit together. We'll see. This week we started off with a Thursday night divisional matchup between probably one of the better quarterback matchups as well in this league. Just like guys that are very consistent, big plays, athletic, have a good squad around them for them to, a good supporting cast, that is. You got the Chiefs and the Chargers.
This was a very, very close game. I didn't watch too much of it. I know that Eckler had a decent game. But yeah, this was a shootout as we were expecting due to Herbert and Mahomes. It's going to be an iconic matchup for years to come. So it was a very, very exciting game to watch, especially on Thursday night. And it looks like Thursday night football, they might be doing a little bit better, at least the last 2 weeks, of actually getting good games and not Eagles Giants. I mean, I'm sure that's gonna happen later on in the season, but
don't worry, we have Jacoby Brissett versus Mr. Trubisky in week 3. So
I spoke too soon, but
but they still have like really star-studded defenses, but we're talking about week 2 right now. But
yeah.
I think this was a really good game, and it's exciting that we're going to get a second one of these, and who knows, maybe we'll get this in the playoffs as well. I could see it becoming a divisional round matchup. It'd be crazy if it's a conference game. I doubt it will be because there's one other team that I think is definitely a shoo-in for that conference game, unless something tragic happens. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where these teams go throughout this season, because Chiefs, there was all the questions about like the effect of Tyreek Hill leaving. Doesn't seem like it's bothering Patrick Mahomes much. He's putting up pretty typical MVP numbers, and Travis Kelce was pretty limited in production as well. So you still have really good production out of those wide receivers, and even those running backs are stepping up. I know like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is stepping up. And then on the Chargers side, like Keenan Allen was out, but Justin Herbert was still making a lot of great plays through injury as well. I mean, just props to both of those guys for figuring out through pretty through all the changes, through the chaos of their organization, you know, a lot of different changes, and they still look just as good as, you know, we expect them to be, which a lot of organizations can't say. You know, one thing goes wrong and everything goes to shit. We'll talk about one of those instances later, but yeah, I think this was probably the best Thursday night matchup we're going to get.
I haven't looked at the other Thursday night football matchups, but I assume that they're going to just keep getting worse from here because I don't know why the NFL has such a hard time scheduling actual good games on prime time, especially on Thursday. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes remains flawless in September. I mean, I think he had like one interception last year, but he threw no interceptions in this game. He has 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions so far this year. I think like 550 yards or something crazy like that. But yeah, the Chiefs keep steamrolling. And I want to make a side note too. DeAndre Carter, he had 3 receptions, 55 yards. The reason why I make that note is because I think the Eagles originally drafted him and or picked it up from free agency. So I'm glad, and he was one of my favorite like up and coming like possible like off the practice squad kind of guy like Fulgham was, where he had potential of succeeding, but then he kind of faded away. So I'm glad that to see that he's succeeding elsewhere, even though it's in minimal role. It's still cool to see that because I think he was Washington last year, but that's all I gotta say for at least this game.
Yeah, and shout outs to the Chargers defense, man. They look like a real threat. I know Mahomes still, you know, did Mahomes things against them, but they still looked really good. And I mean, against some of these other teams, let's say like how the Raiders look right now, I think the Chargers will wipe the floor with them in future matchups. Of course, they kind of did. They held them to what, 19 last week. I forgot that they already played 2 weeks in. But yeah, I think even not talking about the Raiders, maybe a weaker team with weaker weapons. Let's say Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, and who's their best wide receiver? Christian Kirk, I guess. Like, yeah, that Chargers defense is not going to let anything pass them by if they face one of those teams. I think they look really good through 2 really tough matchups to start the year. I would not be sad if I was a Chargers fan to be 1-1 because you had the Raiders into the Chiefs on a short week as well.
Yeah,
you have to take a little bit of pride, you know.
Yeah, it's divisional matchups too. So it's divisional matchups no matter. We've had many discussions on this podcast about divisional matchups. It's always going to be hard. So at least they made it close.
Yeah.
And they only held the Chiefs offense to 14 points through 3 quarters, which is impressive, and 27 points overall, which is still kind of so impressive too. But Baltimore, Miami, probably the most interesting game, which is very hard to say because there was many very very interesting and exciting matchups.
Yeah, this definitely tops them all, but I just don't even know what to say. I don't know who to give credit to the most. Is it Miami receivers? Is it Tua? Is it the Ravens defense just flopping? Is it Mike McDaniels really making that impact as a coach? Now undefeated as a head coach right now. I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to have to give it to all those guys. I think all of those are very big factors. Listen, I don't care how good the Miami offense looks. The Ravens defense is supposed to be on paper better than letting up 4 touchdowns in a quarter. Like that is just abysmal. And because especially on the other side of the ball, Lamar Jackson was handling it. Lamar Jackson looked amazing, almost perfect. And for the defense to still let that collapse happen is just really disappointing. But I don't want to take any credit away from Tua and the receivers and Mike McDaniels and even everyone else, offensive line, Mike Gesicki, whatever. Everyone just had an amazing performance to end that game. I don't know if it's going to be consistently like this, if this is a effort that will be maintained through this season. It could just be an outlier, sort of like how the Ravens came back on the Colts last year, but then the Ravens weren't very successful offensively through the rest of the year. But we'll see. I think it still bodes very well for Tua. Already a great start.
Yeah, and it's huge statistical game too. Like I don't I'm trying to say statistics less and less because I don't want to just be running off numbers throughout this podcast 24/7, but this game I feel like I have to cover some of the statistics that were fucking held in this game because it was insane. Like Tua had what went 36 for 50, 469 yards, passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tyreek Hill, 11 interceptions, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, 11 receptions, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. Basically identical numbers there. And then I think Tua had 1 carry, 1 yard. But on the flip side, you have Lamar Jackson, 21 for 29, 318 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. But on the flip side, he had 9 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown. Running the ball. I guess some notable receiving on the Ravens sides. I mean, got Rashad Bateman, second back-to-back, I think 70+ yard touchdowns. And starting the first 2 weeks. He had 4 receptions, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Mark Andrews had 9 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown as well. Rashard Bateman is their rookie receiver, right?
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Yeah, so he started off very, very hot in his
No, he's actually a second year.
second year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot. Last year wasn't super notable, but I mean that whole offense had its issues, but
Yeah.
he's now stepped into more of a primary receiver role because Marquise Brown is out. I mean gone, but
Yeah, but he's definitely stepping up into that sophomore year. And then Marcus Williams too for the defense side had 2 interceptions. He had both interceptions from Tua. So he had a great game on his own, even though the rest of the defense and he might have only just made a couple plays. The rest of their defense didn't play too hot. But yeah, it was a very crazy game. Very, very crazy, especially towards the end. And it was very exciting to get the tail end of that and watch Waddle get the last second touchdown.
yeah. A couple of notes going off of those statistics. I'll start with the Ravens. Yeah, Lamar Jackson now has the longest passing touchdown and longest rushing touchdown of the season across the league.
That's insane.
So dude is definitely in the MVP talks despite being 1-1. But if you're gonna be 1-1, I mean
Yeah.
what can you do? Like what more could Lamar have done really?
Honestly,
other than just had a better, like he just needed a better defense. That was all. But other than that, the other note I had was about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. As soon as Tyreek Hill was traded to the Dolphins, everyone started talking fantasy-wise, like, okay, who's the true number 1 receiver? Obviously, Tyreek Hill has the numbers as like a good precedent. He's like that guy. But at the same time, Waddle and Tua have the better connection. They're both Alabama guys. They have been on the same team longer. And so a lot of people have been arguing about like who would be the receiver that gets the most targets and gets the fantasy numbers that make them worth drafting. And so far, it turns out they're both just really good and both worth having on your team. I wouldn't say one over the other. They just both have been putting up amazing numbers through 2 games. Obviously, it's a long season and a lot can change. We're going to get more data points. It's a small sample size, but if you're a Waddle or Tyreek Hill owner, you should be feeling pretty good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah. I got nothing much to say other than it was a wild game, but I feel like I've just been repeating that at this point. But yeah, it's interesting to see that dynamic play out as we get more data on it. It's very they're definitely the best duo, wide receiving duo as of now. As of now, currently
Yeah.
week 2, clean slate at the beginning of the year. As of now, they seem like they're heading in that direction. If not, they're already there.
Yeah, statistically through 2 games, you would have to give it to them.
Mm.
You'd have to be a fool not to, but there are definitely some competitors.
Mm.
I would even have to give it to Washington. Those guys in Washington right now are looking.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's more so of a trio than a duo, but still. Anyways, carrying on. We got Jets and the Browns. This was also, I wrote this down wrong. I don't know what happened there, but score aside, I believe it was more like this, 30-31.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to remember what it was, but the Jets made a pretty cool comeback against the Browns.
Yeah.
A lot of people were counting the Jets out because they're starting a certain Super Bowl MVP at quarterback, but and a lot of people would say he's washed, but he
Yeah.
had a really good game. Like not just like being a game manager or anything like that. He like simply just had a really good game.
Mhm.
Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson are really good targets. Yeah, Jets are decent. I think I said this. I don't know what I actually had them at. Let me see. I said they'd win 7 games. So far, I think they're on pace for that. Obviously, it's just 1-1, but I think still, from what we've seen and the fact that they are without their starting quarterback, I think 7 wins is definitely reasonable for this team right now. And as they continue to rebuild after an awful regime 2 years ago, so
Yeah, and I want to apologize for picking the Browns. I know I stated in week 1 that I would never pick the Browns, and I picked the Browns this one. But I feel so disgusted. Like, I know it's just like picking a team to win. It's not like I was supporting them, but like just some of like the pictures. I think Trey sent it in the one fantasy group chat, but it's just disgusting how the Browns like accepted Deshaun Watson and his allegations and actually like giving into it. So I just want to make an apology for that, but that's beside the actual game. And this was one of 3 games that had a major comeback in the fourth quarter. The other one being the Rams, or not the Rams, the Raiders one, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, it was this is what you like to see. So hopefully the Jets can continue this winning stint and actually become like a decent team, because it's been a while since we've seen a good New York Jet team. And I'm tired of I want some new teams on top, I want some, we've had the rate of the Patriots for a while, the Chiefs. It's still kind of new, but I don't know. I want a new dynasty. I want like some few teams that are going to be in the race like for the next like 5 years, that maybe not Super Bowl contenders, but at least playoff contenders. And kind of like flip the narrative. Like the Jets have been out of playoff contention, not even in considering playoff contention for almost decade and a half now. And it's hopefully they can turn this around and actually get a little thing going. Hopefully, I don't see it happening, but hopefully within the next 5 years or so.
man,
Yeah.
how quick we are to forget the Bills were garbage for so long and now they're on top. And you
Yeah.
have the audacity to say, I want to see something new. Like
Well,
they
no.
haven't even had the chance to completely fulfill this their their summit.
Well, yeah, I wasn't talking about that. I was them. I'm happy that we see Bills rising, and they're on top of these new rising teams. I was talking
You
more.
just want to see more.
Yeah, I just want to see more and see like the Cleveland Browns be at the bottom again. And not that they were ever on top,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I don't know. I just want a little mix up, like I want these bad teams. I guess more what I'm saying is I want to see these shit teams become good like the Bills.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, speaking of 2 teams that I think are on the right track, relative to last year at least, you got the Lions and the Commanders both off to really good starts. Now both 1-1. Washington shat on the Eagles for letting Jared Goff's Lions score 35 against them, and now they got scored how many points? Oh yeah, 36. So I think the real irony here is how much we have been belittling Jared Goff's Lions, and I think it's time we actually just give them the respect they deserve. Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Mm-hmm.
he's a top 5 receiver right now.
Another level.
Not just fantasy wise, because he may be like one of the only like true receiving targets there, but he's just been crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Jared Goff has been managing to keep up with that pace, you know. And DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, not only do they have a really threatening passing game in Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, but their running game is on top of the league right now. Obviously, it's still through 2 games, but I mean, DeAndre Swift didn't even have that many carries yesterday, and they still dominated the run game with Jamal Williams and everyone else in that room. So, I mean, it's what a turnaround from last year. I think that's really impressive. And Carson Wentz still looks good, I guess. Not terrible, at least.
Yeah, Brown keeps the streak of A+ receptions since last year. He's still carrying that streak into this year, and he even had 2 carries for 68 yards, which is absurd. Like yeah, I 100% agree with you with the statement of he's a top 5 receiver as of now, and it's just crazy. Like if the Lions can keep this up throughout the year, then they're going to be a playoff contender, and they're going to be really scary. Like I don't know if I would want to see them again in the playoffs if I was the Eagles.
I wouldn't. That offense is so good. Defense obviously still needs work, and that's why I'm hesitant to call him a contender, because they could still use an upgrade at quarterback. Jared Goff is not going to be a Super Bowl answer, but he's gonna help those young guys progress. At least he's not going to stunt their growth. And once they get a real true franchise quarterback in there and their defense progresses, then I think they're ready.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm really hot. Like this is a team that I'm going to be behind, because they've been so bad for such a long time, and I want them to win a playoff game.
And with all the draft capital from that Matthew Stafford trade as well, like
Yeah,
a lot of people may say like, oh, Rams won that trade because they got a Super Bowl right after, you know, paid off. But I mean, with how the Lions have looked after one of those drafts, only one of those drafts, and like a lot of those rookies from that draft haven't even like really been able to take impact, because it's only 2 games in now. I think like strictly what really changed there is just the culture. I think you gotta give credit to what's his name? Dan Campbell. You gotta give credit to him for really changing the culture around them.
yeah, he definitely did a 180 with that and made it exciting to play for the Detroit Lions. Vice versa, not being excited to play.
Yeah, they show the most effort out of any team in the entire league, and that's even like last year as well. I would say how they finished last year at least. They just show the effort that a certain team that had a lot of analysts saying they were divisional favorites. You know, the effort hasn't been there, and it's not even just effort, because you know there are some players that don't show a lot of effort, but they still like casually get pretty good numbers because, you know, they're all-star talents or whatever. But in the case of the Indianapolis Colts, who had the most Pro Bowlers last year and then upgraded at quarterback, at cornerback, you could argue edge rusher as well, supposedly on paper. They are now the worst team in the league, I would say, just from how they performed in 7 of their 8 quarters from these 2 games. You know, the 4th quarter of the Texans game was really, you know, we made a cool comeback, tied it. We didn't lose, so that's the one saving grace from the season so far. But the curse in Jacksonville prevails. Jacksonville just, I would say, actually just like looks like a not a good team, but an okay team. Doug Peterson has been coaching really well. They did lose to Washington, but they had the lead at some points versus Washington, despite Carson Wentz looking pretty explosive. Got 2 interceptions off of him. So I wouldn't say like this is a complete disgrace, because I think the Jaguars are definitely a better team now than they were the past 2 years when the Colts lost to them in Jacksonville. But still, this should not have happened, and it should not have happened this bad.
Yeah.
And like I predicted a sloppy win in Houston and then a loss to Jacksonville, right? I
Mhm.
predicted relatively like the outcome, just the raw outcome of win and losing, even though we tied against Houston. I would still call that a win based off of how bad that game was going. It should not have been this bad. It should not have. No one could have predicted it would be this horrendous of a showing from everyone. No
Mhm.
one is excused. It's coaching, general manager,
Yeah.
and every single player that took that field, except a lot of people are saying one of our defensive tackles, Grover Stewart, had a really good game, because we did stuff the run pretty well at some points, thanks to Grover Stewart.
Yeah.
But other than him, and I would excuse Jonathan Taylor. He had some really good runs, despite the offensive line not really giving him much. Other than those 2 guys, everyone played like shit.
Yeah.
Like they didn't just play bad; they played like the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah. And like Jonathan Taylor, like he only had 9 carries, but he had 6 yards per carry. And Matt Ryan flopped. He flopped. He had 3 interceptions, 195 yards, 16 for 30. And people were shitting on Carson last year for losing to Jacksonville at the end of the game. Now, granted, way bigger, a lot more on the table comparatively to now, but Carson Wentz is not as bad as a QB as everyone was saying towards the end of last year. That's not saying that he shouldn't have been traded and they shouldn't have gotten Matt Ryan, but there's some unnecessary Carson Wentz hate, even from my end as well. But it just goes, I don't know. Like you said, no one was expecting it to be this bad. I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. Trevor Lawrence looked decent, but yeah, I just
Some
wanted.
thoughts on the Wentz thing. I would say that a lot of people have been discussing which loss was more embarrassing. Obviously, both are just like you can't even make sense of them, but they're just bad. But Wentz still had Michael Pittman healthy. Shaquille Leonard was healthy at the time, and the offensive line wasn't abysmal. Like they played abysmal yesterday. I don't think they were abysmal. They were bad, but not as bad as yesterday. And we were playing against a Jacksonville team with an interim coach.
Yeah.
Interim. So I think Carson Wentz actually had better things going for him and still lost, although it was a complete like all around organizational loss. Matt Ryan had no time in the pocket to make any throw. And his best target, and frankly, his only target that is worth mentioning in that entire wide receiver room, was out. And Frank Reich admitted that they were expecting Michael Pittman to play that Sunday, and then they had to take him out of the lineup last second. I think it was like the day before, maybe. Basically, they came into the game unprepared to have that wide receiver room so flawed, basically, and just like understaffed. And that's on Frank Reich for not preparing that wide receiver room to have like one thing not go their way and having one guy out. Like most other coaches in the league, like obviously not having your starter wide receiver is bad, but most other coaches in the league would have made something work. Frank Reich admitted to not being able to make anything work and not being able to adapt. I don't want to beat this dead horse too much longer because it's really it's been beat pretty heavily on Twitter and all that. A lot of people are calling for Chris Ballard and Frank Reich to be fired. I think, yeah, that's fair. I think there is a good precedent for that, and I'm on board with it personally. But I do think that the Colts will probably rebound.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, like we know what our floor is, and this is like kind of how it's been the past couple of years start off really bad, and okay, it's like, yeah, now we understand where our floor is. Our floor is looking like a 3-win team. But in years past, with still the same pieces and the same scheme and everything, we've also had games like against the Bills last year where we dominated them, where we look like a fucking Super Bowl team, basically. We basically are the team that has probably the lowest floor out of any of the like divisional favorites per se, but we also have a high ceiling. We just haven't been able to see that yet this season, but I'm sure we will at some point. Super Bowl teams though have to have a higher floor than what we have, and that's why I think we have to fire Frank Reich and Chris Ballard, because they just have not been able to show that they can raise that floor and actually be consistent, because we're not going to go on a playoff run if we are inconsistent against good teams, even against bad teams. Like we've been getting dominated by the worst teams in the league so far. So I think if we keep Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, we are just going to be perpetuating a culture of really inconsistent and mediocre play that just like varies very heavily, and we just like we're very streaky, like we go on really amazing tears that like shake up the whole league, and then the most embarrassing loss is known to man. And it's just like we can't have that in this organization, otherwise the culture is going to fall apart. The players are not going to want to play there anymore, and we have a lot of players we can't afford to lose, especially because we pay them so much. So yeah, I think even if we win the division, therefore making the playoffs, and even if we get a playoff win, I still think you're going to be seeing people calling for Frank Reich and Chris Ballard to get fired, because it's just been long enough where we've had to deal with this level of inconsistency and just mediocrity overall. It's just at some point you have to be able to make a team, especially with the pieces we have, that is able to actually get us to a point where we don't lose to these bad teams, at least not lose them this bad, get to the point where we're like a Green Bay Packers or a Buffalo Bills or a Kansas City Chiefs, where we don't have these incredibly embarrassing losses, and our only incredibly embarrassing losses happen to be against like the good teams. It can't be against these trash teams.
Yeah. Who do you think is on the hot seat? Chris Ballard or more? Who do you think is more on the hot seat? If Frank Wright or Chris Ballard, or are they both equally on the same level, like of hot seat of like?
Yeah, they're the same.
They're both gonna get fired at the same time, or they're both gonna stay? Or do you think there's an outcome where maybe Frank Wright gets fired and Chris Ballard stays, or vice versa? Or do you think just flat right they're both gonna get fired, or they're both gonna stay?
Oh yeah, it's like it's either both stay or both go.
Okay.
Otherwise it's going to look like another Band-Aid fix if we just do one and not the other. Because I think the way this roster has been constructed has been very flawed from the beginning. Someone made a really good point on Twitter saying that Chris Ballard has a fundamentally flawed roster construction method, where he doesn't really consider wide receivers to be that important to like go and grab. And he cares more about the trenches and puts a lot of money into the offensive line and defensive line. And by the way, they have not been looking like the way they should be. If we're putting that much money into that, they've been looking just not like that at all. He has a fundamentally flawed roster construction method, but he delivers really well by that method, because he's been able to evaluate talent like Quentin Nelson. He's brought in Jonathan Taylor, even Michael Pittman in the second round, because he refuses to get a wide receiver in the first. He's been able to get in good talent, but it's still a fundamentally flawed method that is just not going to actually get us the grand result of the Super Bowl. So Chris Ballard's bad, right? And then on the other side, you have Frank Reich, who consistently hasn't been able to get his players ready to play these important games that they're supposed to win, that they're favored to win. And I just think he's been consistently unprepared and consistently hasn't been able to make the right calls. So both of them are on the hot seat in an equal way. And I think it's either both stay or both go. And I hope by the end of it, it's both go.
Me too. Yeah, it was definitely a very, very disappointing loss from the Colts, but I think they have properties to make a rebound. It's crazy to look back on the evolution of the past like 3 years doing this podcast, just like the opinions about the Colts and even the Eagles as well. Kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that too, because like Chris,
The league is very shifty, you know. That's
yeah,
how it's always been. You have
yeah,
to be able to keep up, and they haven't.
yeah. That's why I like the NFL. It's you got to keep up with the times, and if you don't,
Yeah.
then you would implode.
I mean, I gotta like give props to the Eagles too. Like they were able to predict Wentz's fall off and brought in a replacement.
Yeah.
And you know that shook up the league, said it messed with Wentz's confidence and all that. And so they shot themselves in the foot, but they've been able to rebound so quickly. Got
Mhm.
a really good new coach as well. Like the Eagles have been able to prepare themselves for all of the incoming changes before they hit them. Whereas like the Colts are just like always unprepared each time that sort of thing happens. Like fucking Michael Pittman gets injured, our whole wide receiver room doesn't do anything. Like we
Mhm.
just aren't prepared to show the effort when we have those pitfalls. And
Mhm.
it's like you have to be able to do that as an NFL organization to be able to overcome that adversity. And I mean, we kind of have by having these rough starts and then making these really cool runs through the regular season. But what has it resulted in? No divisional wins, one playoff appearance, no playoff wins. And it's probably going to be the same thing by the end of the season. We might get the division win just from how bad it is, but I don't want that to be the reason why we get the division win after these 5 years, you know, of this regime. Like that shouldn't be why it happens. It should be because we have the pieces and they're playing well. But instead it's we have the pieces and we're trash for some reason.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense, but it shouldn't make sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I still think like, yeah, we still have a lot of I mean, I say we have the pieces, but obviously we still need like a true second wide receiver. We need a left tackle. Like there are obviously pieces that need to be filled in, but I think you put this roster in the hands of another coach, another general manager, they'd be able to get better results than what we've gotten. I look at the Lions and what they've been able to manage through as little as they have, and I just like, you know, like why for how much like recognition Frank Reich has gotten as an offensive mind and how much recognition Chris Ballard has gotten as like a talent evaluator, why aren't they able to like put together a winning roster? It just doesn't make sense. But we should move on, right?
Yeah, yeah. That we haven't had a good Colt round in a while. I like a good Colt.
Yeah, I tried to avoid it yesterday because I knew the big one was coming. So I knew we were going to lose in Jacksonville. Didn't know this badly, but
Yeah.
we're going to beat Kansas City though.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm like so prepared for us to beat the Chiefs, and I'm gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna like watching my players I love do well, but as like an organization, I hate it because it's just gonna detract from the conversation of like we need to fire these guys.
Yeah.
You know, that's gonna be the pretext. All the pretext they need to be like, see, we're fine, but like we're not fine.
But yeah.
Anyways,
Tampa Bay versus the Saints. Not much to say here, but it was kind of odd. It's very similar game to how the Buccaneers played against the Cowboys. It's very low scoring. But then the Bucs were able to take control, or it seemed like they always had control throughout the entirety of the game, but they were able to keep it low scoring. And I don't know. It's very weird how both they're very defense oriented team, and they're standing by that, especially with their main pieces being out, like Chris Godwin. Mike Evans ended up getting ejected in the fourth quarter, even though he did play the first 3 quarters or the most 75% of the game. But it's this method is clearly working when some of the pieces aren't there on the offense to kind of get them jump started. So they kind of had to put their defense kind of had to do some carrying and put the team on their back, and it's working. The past couple games, they beat a divisional rival in the Saints. Even though that's no easy task. Just on the purpose of, or solely on that it is divisional matchup, and they beat a Cowboy team that was supposed to be very offensive heavy, and they kind of just diminished that. There's not really anything exciting except for, I mean, Michael Thomas got a touchdown, but it was a garbage time touchdown. But there was a big fight. I think it was Lattimore and Mike Evans that ended up getting ejected, but I think Tom Brady and Lattimore was the original fight that occurred, and then Evans came in, shoved, like, decked Lattimore to the ground,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean, Mike Evans, can't say he de-escalated the situation. I don't think much would have happened between Tom Brady and Lattimore other than just like words, but then it took a turn.
Yeah, I think Lattimore started, because I watched the video a couple of times, and it looked like Lattimore was getting in the face of Fournette too after the skirmish with Tom Brady, or like the little back and forth between Tom Brady. And yeah, I think Mike Evans had so much more that he could have de-escalated with, but it made very, very good entertainment to watch. Nonetheless, like, it was very entertaining to watch that. Even though I didn't watch it live, but it made it very entertaining, because they were going at it, like the entire benches from each side came out, and like they had to pull each other off of each other. It was just, you like to see a good fight once in a while, as long as no one gets hurt. But I don't know. I think it's a cool part of the game where, as long as no one gets hurt, I think it makes it entertaining.
Yeah, I think it actually served Tom Brady pretty well, because it served as a distraction.
Mhm.
Now, Tom Brady is the greatest winner of all sports. I think if you try to argue otherwise, you're just dead wrong. He is just, like, you can say he's not the most athletic, that's fine. I think that's pretty true. But he's the greatest winner of all sports of all time. And he is 2-0 right now. So it still remains true. However, he has not been playing good. In fact, he's been playing bad. And that whole skirmish actually really distracted from the fact that Tom Brady has been looking bad through 2 games. Obviously, both defenses are still good, the Saints and the Cowboys defenses, but he's played against worse, and he's played with worse wide receivers and a worse offensive line. Maybe, yeah, I think he has. And I know Chris Godwin's out, Mike Evans got ejected later, but still, like, as the GOAT, he should be playing a lot better. But I think for the first time ever, I think his age is actually now showing. Last year he was an MVP candidate. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he can keep going till he's 60." But this year, after retiring and then unretiring, he's now really showing his age. And I don't think it's going to, especially late season, I think it's really going to become apparent. And that's going to be scary. And there's only so much the Buccaneers defense can do before it really starts falling apart. And I think it's definite at this point. Like, even before the season started, the rumors were that Tom Brady is going to retire again at the end of this season, no matter how it ends. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, his stats for comparison is 400 total stats for this year is 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and 82.8 rating, and a 59% completion percentage, which is what he normally gets in a game. But he got that in 2 games, and the completion percentage definitely not where it normally is, and it's just, dang, he should have just stayed. He should have just stayed retired. Like, but I have a conspiracy theory, not conspiracy theory, and the only reason why I thought of this was because of the Michael Jordan commercial, where he was talking about Tom Brady as being like one of the GOATs. But do you think one of the big reasons for why Tom Brady came back was so that he could retire at 23 years, the number that Michael Jordan was, to be
No,
No.
I don't think there's any connection whatsoever. I think that was like the weirdest conspiracy theory you've ever come up with. Like, it's so far off base that it's ridiculous. I mean, it's fun though. You
It's
provided some great content for us, Caleb. Thank you. Gave us all a great laugh, but I think it's time we move on to the
Yeah.
next game. Guess who's 2-0? The Giants
Crazy.
are.
Crazy.
How? I guess defense, new coach. Saquon Barkley's looking good. Daniel Jones isn't looking awful. He's not looking good either. But he's being a game manager, and I think that's the role that's his ceiling. Let's just put it at that. Game manager is his ceiling, and he's been able to do it. So
Yeah, this is first time that the Giants have been 2-0 since 2016. They haven't been to start the year 2-0 since 2016,
so not that
which
long.
is crazy. It's just I guess it's not that long ago, but I think the past few years they've always started like 0-2, 0-3, like it's just crazy. The turnaround. I mean, they did beat the Panthers, which is not a good team by any means. Giants, you said everything that I was gonna say, so I'm not gonna repeat it, but Giants beating broken down Panther team that's still trying to figure their shit out, and a Titans team that is definitely trying to figure their shit out and is basically worthless without AJ Brown. But I'm interested to see how they move forward, if this is kind of just like a false team, just like kind of like, oh, they just got off to a hot start and then they go 5, 6, and 11 and they fall from here, or even go mediocre, a little bit above or below 500. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. But as of now, they're at the top of the division, along with the Eagles. Are tied for first place, which is not a sight that Giants fans see often atop of the NFC East. They're usually at the bottom or third place. But yeah, I know that they're an NFC East team, but I personally don't have any worries. Like, this is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they have to have more wins before I get worried about them. But as of now, I think this is like a false or like a fake energy or a fake like start. Not a fake start, but it's like I don't know. It's just they're starting off hot. I just don't see it continuing throughout the rest of the season. So I'm not too worried as an Eagles fan as of now. But if they continue this trend and maybe 4-1, 5-0 even, or even later down the line if they're 8-4, and then I'll start to become worried. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see how they take it from this point on. But very good start from the Giants, their entire team. It's an entire team win for them. But yeah, that's all I gotta say is I'm interested to see how they take it from here.
Yeah. I don't really know anything that happened in that game, if I'm being honest. So
I know nothing.
I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah.
Patriots, Steelers. Another one that I didn't focus too heavily on. I mean, this is, by the way, at the same time as the crazy Ravens versus Dolphins game. So please excuse our ignorance. But what I do know is that Trubisky.
I think it's time for him to sit on a bench. And Kenny to come in. I think that's where we're at with the Steelers.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think Kenny would have won this game. Not gonna lie. I watched some of the game because this game was one of two games that was on that I was able to watch. So I was forced to watch this miserable ass game. It was so boring, Titus. It was so boring to watch. I was
What was the other one?
The other one was the Giants Panthers.
What a terrible combo.
Like I'm like I had more excitement doing my homework than watching this game. That's how boring it was because I had no interest in either team. It was a low scoring game. Like the only exciting
Yeah,
thing that happened was maybe an interception. I was like, oh, that's good for someone.
I
But
think I think both teams have good defenses and then just dysfunctional offenses.
yeah,
And it's just like you know how that plays out. It plays out exactly how it did 17-14. Just kind of like
Eh.
whatever.
yeah,
At least there were touchdowns. Not
yeah,
every game has been able to say that. So
yeah.
next we move into the late afternoon slot. We have the Rams and the Falcons. There was nearly a 28-3 comeback, but Atlanta couldn't pull it off. It was very close though. It
Yo,
was-
I was peeping that score. I'm like, oh my god, is this gonna happen? Please, please, for the love of God, have this happen. But it didn't. I was so sad.
yeah, so Rams defense is like very explosive, but for whatever reason they just
Imploded?
huh?
Imploded? They imploded?
No, they're very explosive because they get all the turnovers and stuff like that.
Well, I meant like imploded like towards the end of the game, allowing like the point.
Yeah, I mean I guess you could say that, but I would say more like I think the real issue with that defense is actually from like the stance where like you have like all those star players. You have the Bobby Wagner, you have Aaron Donald, you have Jalen Ramsey, right? You can basically see through that, and like they are so capable of getting those big plays and those big turnovers because you know where that's coming from, and they're so good at their game that they're able to pull it off at least initially. But as soon as the other team is able to figure that out and adapt to it, it's just like immediately you see the results. Like you, as soon as you start paying more attention to like, okay, there's Jalen Ramsey, okay, there's Aaron Donald, you can just move around them and play not towards them. And then all of a sudden you see all the holes in the Rams defense. It's just like I feel like teams are figuring them out a lot more because they are the Super Bowl winners, and this happens to every Super Bowl winner ever. All the teams take a special precaution with them. And they do have more tape to use against them because they played so many games last year, as that's what you have to do to win the Super Bowl. And so I think, I mean, Atlanta is not really that great of an offense, but you know, they are able to figure it out just as much as any other team, and that's not going to bode well for the Rams in the future.
I agree. This is the second time I'm using this phrase, but it's interesting it's going to be interesting to see how they play the rest of the season and how teams are going to combat that, and if they're going to be able to switch and actually do something different, or if they're just going to keep playing like they are.
It's very much like the Colts defense last year because they have a very similar situation where they have the star cornerback, Kenny Moore, obviously not on the same level with Jalen Ramsey. But then you have the star defensive tackle, DeForest Buckner, and then you have Shaquille Leonard, linebacker. You have those stars, but when the team starts to figure out how to play around them, it's over. And Colts last year especially were very turnover dependent. If they were not getting the turnovers, the defense was letting up so many yards and so many points. But the good thing about our defense was that they could get a lot of turnovers, and that's what would win this game. But against like bad teams, like even you go as far back as like 2020 with the Texans, like we had a lot of close games against them, even though they're like a 4-win team, I think. We had a lot of close games against where they would like, I mean, Deshaun Watson was torching us, but then we get like a last second turnover and then that would save the game. And it's like the Rams are going through what the Colts had to deal with, which is, you know, that's a very inconsistent methodology of being turnover dependent. Like you have to stop the yardage. That's like the priority. can't depend on the big explosive plays. You just have to be very consistent through all your plays, I think.
I agree. But they got the win nonetheless, even though it shouldn't have been as close as it was, and we almost had a fourth huge comeback this past Sunday, which would have been crazy if the Falcons were able to pull that off, because that to have 4 major comebacks in one Sunday like that, it would be almost as if the NFL was scripted in a way, wouldn't it be? But yeah, let's get to the San Francisco 49ers first, the Seahawks. Now this is how 49ers is supposed to play. This is how everyone was expecting them to play, and this is how everyone was kind of expecting the Seahawks to play this come around. And what I was saying about the divisional game where I could see it being close, they proved me wrong in this instance, where 49ers took it away early and they're just carried away.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
With it. But I guess the biggest news story that came out of this is that Trey Lance is out for the season, sadly, and Jamie Garoppolo came in. He played how he usually played, or has been playing for the past few years. Mediocre. Does what he needs to win. And the most kind of sinister thing is that he kind of smiled, like a sinister smiled, when he was on the field when Trey Lance was being carted off, which was kind of bad.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, Trey showed me a meme, so I didn't look into it, so I don't know if it was just.
Oh, it could have been out of context.
It could have been out of context, so don't state me on that. But I just saw.
Quote him on it, everyone.
Don't do it. But that's just from one meme that I saw that Trey showed me. But if it is in fact the case, that's very messed up. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's just the biggest headline from this. What are your thoughts and opinions about this exciting game?
Yeah, this is exactly what people thought would happen, basically. This is how everyone thought the Seahawks were going to play through the entirety of the season, and this is how everyone thought the 49ers would play through the entirety of the season, although of course with a different quarterback primarily. But yeah, it's a really shitty situation for Trey Lance. Luckily he's still young. Damn, this is really going to hold him back, probably.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a couple more chances, which is good after the injury, to kind of prove himself, but he has a lot of climbing to do to get away from that point.
Because he really hasn't been able to play much is the rough part of it. And so, I mean, that's what you need to do in order to be good. You have to get the play time, and he's not been able to get it.
Yeah, hopefully teams, if he stays on the 49ers, hopefully the 49ers see that he hasn't had much play time. So if he comes back next year and doesn't start off to a hot start, I hope they give him a longer leash to kind of get that playing experience, to kind of build his confidence up, to build up that ability, to build up that skill so that he can succeed. So hopefully that's the case. But that's all I really got to say on.
Yeah, it just sucks because there's such a win now roster. Like, that roster is so stacked.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sucks that they have to go through this like whole quarterback ordeal, because like they got what was supposed to be the answer, but it's just been a very difficult couple of years trying to get him acclimated. And then for this to happen, it's just rough.
Very, very rough. But then you got Cincinnati Bengals versus Dallas Cowboys. Fuck you, Cowboys, for winning. You're still worthless team. Fuck you. No, I'm just joking. The way that they won was off of a game-winning field goal. And this is another game where the Bengals didn't close out, in which they have a close game that they should have closed out. I don't know if they should have closed out, because I think this was a more close game than what the Steelers game was last or a couple weeks ago for them. I don't think they had as many opportunities to close out the game as they did the Steelers game. But you still have to close out the game nonetheless. And yeah, they just simply did not do that. And it's just going to be a common theme throughout the rest of the season where Bengals are playing good enough to get into these close games, but they just can't finish. Our teams slowly starting to realize and catch on to their schemes and what works for them and why they had so much success last year. Our teams looking at what they did and figuring it out and actually being able to beat them in close games like this. But yeah, they just need to close out games because this is back-to-back games where they lost to a last second game-winning field goal. But yeah, it's just they need to get their shit together because right now they're 0-2, and statistics show that 0-2 teams rarely make the playoffs. Which is weird because if you start 0-2, like you still have what 14 games in a 16-game schedule, and now it's 15 games to play in a 17-game schedule. Like you still have so many games to play, and it's just weird to see teams not being able to make a playoff starting 0-2, because it's like,
Yeah, I guess losing doesn't help, huh?
yeah, I mean losing definitely doesn't help, but like it's just like 0-2.
I know, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it's just a weird phenomenon, you know. Like, what's
Yeah.
the difference between losing back-to-back games in the middle of the season comparatively at the beginning of the season, you know? Because like there's a
I
lot
mean,
of,
I guess that is the point, though. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. So,
yeah, that is true. What are your opinions?
on this game, not much. I mean, yeah, like Dallas won the battle, but they're not going to win the war. I would hate to be a Dallas fan right now, just given the quarterback situation and all of that. I mean, wide receiver room does not look great. The whole offense just looks pretty flawed overall. Defense, though, looks amazing. So at least they have that. Yeah, I'm not really that worried about the Bengals, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
I
they
think,
just have to close out games.
yeah, like obviously their offensive line is a fucking mess, sure, but it was last year as well, and they went on a fucking run. I think they just got tightened up a little bit more, and they'll look like the same team. Like, I'm not too worried. I obviously don't think they're like a Super Bowl contender, but they'll be a good playoff team. They just, next year they'll figure it out how to construct a better O line. They'll learn from their mistakes, and then I think they'll be back on track to returning to the Super Bowl next year. This year they can still be a good team that is a threat, though. So not worried about that. I I would still even say they're my favorites to win the division still, even with how good the Ravens look. And who else is in that fucking division? I don't even know.
Browns, Steelers, and Ravens.
Yeah, definitely still better than the Browns and the Steelers, despite both of those being 1-1. Yeah, I'm not worried. So yeah, Denver, Houston. I hate that you're nearly right about picking Houston here. Denver's in trouble. Look, I hate being a Colts fan right now. But honestly, I would hate to be a Denver fan more. You have all your draft assets into this answer at quarterback being Russell Wilson, and you bring in a new coach that is supposed to be able to be the one who actually figures it out. And they just do not look good through 2 games. Obviously, still 2 games. A lot can happen. Let's say it doesn't. I think the Colts are in a better position to recuperate, obviously by means of firing people. The Broncos have all these draft picks that they put in this quarterback that hasn't been able to get it done. You're going to have to like really it's going to be a mess for whoever tries to take that over if it comes down to the Broncos having to turn it over to a new guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, oof. I mean, at least with Matt Ryan, as bad as he's been, we only gave up like a 3rd rounder for him. I mean, all those 1st round picks for Russell Wilson, man. That's gonna leave a dent.
Yeah. Plus all that money too.
Yeah, the money too.
$230 million.
No one's gonna want to take that contract if he has a bad year. There's that. Houston is a interesting team. I really don't know what to think of them yet because they've faced 2 teams that are frauds. So let's see what happens when they face a team that actually plays to their standard.
Frauds. That's the word that I was trying to find. The Giants are frauds.
Wow. It's been a minute since we were talking about the Giants. But anyways.
Well, because I was trying to come up with the word frauds.
Yeah.
Trying to explain the Giants, but I couldn't think of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Way callback. But Cardinals, Raiders, this is the game
Bro, I
third
need a
game-
banana.
You need a banana? You can go get a banana. I can talk about the Raiders and Cardinals until. Are you taking us with us? Oh my gosh, we're going on
So
a
yeah, the Raiders and the Cardinals are bad.
Tytoos adventure.
They're
Yeah,
both bad. Obviously, the
one?
Cardinals looked better yesterday. No, 2 days ago. But they're not. I don't think either are actually that good of a team. Like, it's scary to say, but I am not convinced with the Cardinals at all. It took miraculous runs from Kyler Murray on 2-point conversions to be able to actually bring it that close. It should not have been as grueling as it was to win that game for the Cardinals, given how bad the Raiders defense looked. Like,
Yeah.
it was rough to see from both teams. I mean, good on the Cardinals for getting the win, but god damn. I think the Cardinals and the Broncos play at some point in the season. That is going to look like the weirdest matchup ever, because both teams are just going to look so bad despite having all those great players, I would say, and like fun players to watch as well. And yet, I mean, anyways, yeah, I would not be happy to be a fan of either of those teams. Wasn't I the one who predicted Raiders want to make the playoffs? Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Just making sure I had that, because I mean, they are on pace 0-2. At least the Colts can say they're better than that. God damn.
Yeah.
They put all that resources into Devontae Adams as thinking that would be the thing to take the next step into being a Super Bowl contender. They ain't looking like it.
Yeah. He didn't do anything. He only got a 1-yard touchdown.
I mean, to be fair, Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow are supposed to be able to get a lot of that defense off of Devontae Adams' back by performing better than they have been. Hunter Renfrow looks bad. He was a Pro Bowler last year. He does not look like it right now. 2 fumbles.
That's
What is
crazy.
going on?
Back-to-back fumbles too. One that cost them the game too. It was crazy.
I'm going to turn my camera off as I eat this banana.
Oh, I want to see your beautiful.
I don't want to get memed on.
I want to see your beautiful face swallow a banana. I think Kyler Murray ran a total of 80 yards on the first 2-point conversion that he completed. And this is a big shocker. I think at least I did, and I think a lot of other people did as well, would have thought that Arizona Cardinals, especially how they started off last year, I think they went like what, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0. They went on a big winning streak. It was crazy to see that they're starting off with such a bad start. I mean, they got destroyed by, who did they get destroyed by last game? A couple games ago. Who did they?
It's the Chiefs? Are you talking about the Cardinals?
Yeah. The Chiefs. They got destroyed by the Chiefs. They were getting destroyed by the Raiders and had to have a massive comeback in the fourth quarter to win. But yeah, this is not the Cardinals that everyone was expecting. I mean, they also have JJ Watt too. I think he got a sack. And yeah, it's just not where the Cardinals need to be. But Chicago versus Green Bay. See, as I was saying earlier at the this week or last podcast, I was saying that Green Bay Packers always have a bad loss, and they had a bad loss against the Vikings. They made a rebound against the Bears. I mean, it is the Bears, but Aaron Rodgers is the king, or is still the Bears' dad. And yeah, it's this is similar to the 49ers Seahawks game. This is where everyone saw these two teams, or they performed how everyone expected them to perform. Chicago Bears playing bad, Green Bay Packers dominating. So we have 2 games this week where 4 teams look like how they should be playing, and it kind of back into normal schedule program to how everyone is thinking that they should be playing. I know I didn't watch this game. I think it was a Sunday night game. I saw that Aaron Jones went off. That running back duo with AJ Dillon and right.
What?
Dillon? What's the
AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones?
Oh yeah, okay. I was just making sure that I had AJ Dillon's name correct. But yeah, that's a lethal duo. And Aaron Rodgers had a 131 rating, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he played electric, 76% completion percentage. So yeah, the Packers are where they should be. The Bears are where they should be. Playing bad is normal. But that's all I gotta say. Got anything to say or not?
No, I mean, it's just no surprise here, right? This is how these teams are supposed to look, I would say.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is like Aaron Rodgers didn't look amazing either that game.
Yeah.
It was mainly the running game that was going off, and I mean they had to because that wide receiver room is still unproven. So until that gets sorted out, got to lean on the run game a little bit more.
Yes, sir.
Luckily, you still have Aaron Rodgers to guide the way, but he hasn't been able to look good. I should say he hasn't been able to have his wide receivers get open so he can make those big plays yet. I'm sure he's missing Devontae, but hey, still 1-1, not bad.
Yeah.
Last night though, let's talk about last night's back-to-back / overlapping games.
Yeah, it was a very interesting dilemma. Especially when the Eagles game started, they were doing a lot of split screens, and when there was like a commercial break, or when there was like a timeout, they would show like a split screen of the Bills game and the Eagles game, which was an interesting dynamic, and I don't mind as much as I thought I would. I thought I would get really irritated by that, but I'm not I'm not in love with it, but I'm not opposed to it, which I thought I'd be more opposed to. But it definitely made Monday night more interesting to watch. I think if I wasn't an Eagles fan and if my team wasn't playing, I think I would be thoroughly interested in watching the game like that, where it's kind of like overlapping, where I don't know, it's kind of cool to see. I'm not the biggest fan of it by all means, but I'm more open to it than I previous was.
Yeah, if you're a fan of watching like NFL Red Zone, this is kind of like the format for you. But at the same time, late into the Bills Titans game, it wasn't very competitive. So
Yeah.
we didn't get really the opportunity to see just how many split screens we could have in the
Yeah.
middle of the game because they just gave up on the Bills game at some point. Like Malik Willis was in for Ryan Tannehill after his, I think, second or third interception.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was over pretty quickly. So they didn't really choose to do a lot of split screens as they could have. And therefore I definitely agree it wasn't as irritating as it could have been. I guess we'll just have to see in the future if they continue this. I'm not sure if they are, but yeah, as far as Titans go, they're not good. AFC South is all bad. Titans will figure it out though. They're still like a well-coached team. They've still got a good defense. Derrick Henry will be better in the future. It's just Bills. It's the Bills, man.
Bills are
They're that team, and that is all there is to it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Bills
are the new Patriots.
Are they gonna go 17-0?
Probably. I mean,
We'll see.
Yeah. Who did they decapitate? Oh, they decapitated the Rams game 1 and decapitated the Titans week 2.
They face the red hot Miami Dolphins next week though, so
they're probably going to still put up 35 plus points.
And so will the Dolphins. So there you go.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the point differential there because so far the Bills have had a really great point differential, but Dolphins have managed to be in pretty, I think, close games overall.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say other than the Buffalo Bills looks scary. I honestly, out of every single team, I don't see a team beating them. I honestly don't. Like, the only chance I see the Bills losing is if they pull players at the end of the year and they don't try. It's the only.
I think they play the Chiefs and the Ravens though.
Oh, that would be tough. But even then, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like they're well equipped to.
Yeah, but between like All right, let's just go through it real quick. They're definitely like bound to lose one of these, right? Like you have a stretch. The upcoming 5-game stretch is Dolphins, Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Packers.
Ooh, that's a tough stretch. Maybe
Like
never mind.
they're going to win. I mean, they're going to win at least 3 of those.
Yeah.
They're going to still end up with like out of those 5 games a winning record. But like it's just going to be interesting to see who gets to win over them. Only one of them is primetime though. Interestingly enough, I guess they did start the season with 2 primetime games.
Imagine if they like still have the point differential and still put up like 35 plus points of each of those 5 teams. Like imagine they carry the streak of like high point differential and it's just absolutely destroying teams back to back to back to back to back. It'll just be crazy.
That would be crazy.
If they go 5-0 in this next 5 stretch, then that would be insane. Like that would be absolutely insane.
I would have no answers.
Yeah.
Josh Allen would have guaranteed MVP by week 7.
Yeah, 100%. But let's get to the Eagles Vikings. This was an exciting game, and yeah, the Eagles controlled this entire game. The Vikings looked dog shit. It's very similar to the Bills game, or at least in the first half, because the way that the Bills ended the first half, it was 17-7 against the Titans, and by the end of the first half, it was 24-7. I mean, the Eagles didn't score anything, and the second half, in which you mentioned before we started recording, and good thing that you stopped me because I would have continued ranting before we started recording, and my rant would have been gone, and I wouldn't probably have said as much as I'm going to. I'm not going to say that much. I'm not going to rant as much. I'm going to try to hold myself to not ranting as much. But besides the point, I'm ranting about ranting. But yeah, the Eagles looked great everywhere. Their defense played really good. Their offense played really good. Running offense was really good. I would like them to score a little bit more in the second half, but I really love how they managed this game because they had long drives. I would like them to capitalize off those long drives, like that Jalen Hurts interception. That scared me. Like that play shouldn't have happened. Nick Sirianni shouldn't have called that play, because that was a very high risk, low reward kind of play, especially when you're up 24-7. You shouldn't have been calling those plays. But I really like the time management at least. They played flawless. They had a lot of time of possession. They're controlling the clock. They were moving up and down the field with ease. And then they would have had 27 points if the field goal wasn't blocked, but they should have ended that drive in a touchdown. I would like to see a little bit more aggression, but I think comparatively to the Eagles-Lions game, they were just trying to manage clock, because the Lions game, we were up by 14, 21 points. I don't know what the highest margin of points was, but I know that we were at least up by 14 at one point against the Lions, but we allowed the Lions to come back. And I think Nick Sirianni's main focus was just not to have the Vikings come back like the Lions did. And they almost did. If it wasn't for Darius Slay having 2 interceptions, Avonte Maddox having an interception. So I would like them to control it more, where it doesn't have to come down to those interceptions where they're forcing the Vikings to go 3 and out, or stopping them for just a field goal. Or I guess interceptions a lot better, obviously, than them getting a field goal and points. But I would like them to actually stop and get that defensive line working where it doesn't result in interceptions. I want, like, the main thing that we're lacking is sacks. We're getting great pressure, but we just weren't getting as many sacks as I would like to see, and a lot of pressures on Kirk Cousins. I don't know, it just wasn't there. But other than that, that's my only critique out of the Eagles. Other than that, like, our running game was on fire. Jalen Hurts, his accuracy, I think he only missed 4 or 5 completion, or he only had 4 or 5 missed not completions, and it was just crazy to see. Like, we wanted him to be more accurate. So that's literally all what Eagle fans were asking for, was him to be more accurate. And this is the result of him being more accurate. He was separating the ball amongst all of his receivers. He got Devontae Smith involved. He got Quez Watkins with that deep bomb. AJ Brown was still involved. And this is literally all of my problems with Jalen Hurts in the Lions game, he resolved. Like he had low accuracy or excuse me, he had a low completion rate against the Lions. He was only throwing to AJ Brown against the Lions, throwing to AJ Brown against the Lions. But now he did exactly everything opposite and he played flawless. He did good. He did great deciding when to run and when not to run. He was staying in the pocket more. That one run, his second touchdown run was crazy. I was expecting him to be down, but he just kept going. Yeah, but it was just an exciting game to watch, and it was reminiscent to the Super Bowl run. And I haven't seen a complete game by the Eagles like this in a very, very long time. So yeah, it was just very exciting to watch, and it was thanks to a decent team too. It wasn't thanks like a shitty team either. Like they had weapons, which like I was worried about Kirk Cousins getting heated, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, but we were able to contain them all, and it was that offense is scary, but we were able to not make them scary. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, they it was a good primetime game, even though it wasn't very high scoring at all.
Yeah.
Like it was a scoreless last half, but it still managed to be very entertaining because the defense is just very dynamic.
Yeah.
Especially the Eagles, of course. And yeah, great home opener. That's the way you want to set the tone at home. So yeah, I think Eagles definitely are playing like the best team in the NFC. But as you like noted, you kind of went through all of it. There's still a lot of room for improvement.
Mhm.
Especially if you want to beat the fucking Bills.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if that's the goal right now, yeah, there's room for improvement because right now Bills look flawless.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think they faced too big of threats. I mean, the Rams are still a big threat, I guess, but I think the Eagles have been a little bit more challenged.
Mhm.
And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's from coaching or just players are still young or whatever it is. I feel like the Bills definitely have a little bit more of the upper hand overall. If the Super Bowl is tomorrow, let's say.
Yeah.
So Eagles got a little bit more to prove, but as far as standing out in the NFC, they are on top.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say quickly too, is that like I've seen like a lot of memes saying that a Bills Eagles Super Bowl like the US is not capable of handling, like doesn't have the infrastructure to handle that, because that would absolutely be an insane Super Bowl. Just
Those fan bases will hold that over each other's head forever. Whoever wins,
yeah.
whoever loses, they are never going to see that the other fan base the same way again.
Yeah, like
Going to be brutal.
it's gonna be brutal, and I want to see that. But yeah, as of now, obviously the Bills would. I think the Bills would destroy the Eagles. As of now,
That might end up being like the most watched Super Bowl ever if that happens.
yeah. But I want to state a few things on that too. I think the Eagles, as of now, from what I've seen, is heading into the direction of, or it reminds me of early Bills like 3 or 4 years ago, where they have all these young pieces. They're still trying to get that chemistry. They got a new quarterback in Josh Allen. They have all these young pieces that still, the Bills struggled early on when they're like 3 or 4 years ago. Not struggled, but they got off to a rocky start. But once they started to play, have more experience in the playoffs, more experience in the regular season with each other, they formed to what they are now. And I've seen the Eagles do exactly that. They're a young team. They're a bunch of new pieces, still trying to build that chemistry. And it's just really cool to see all of that like working together so fastly, because I thought it was going to take 7-8 games for us to get to this point where we're at now. And we're still not flawless, but we're fixing the flaws slowly, because we definitely but we definitely improved in areas that were bad against the Lions, and we're able to make those improvements game by game and slowly see, oh, we struggled in letting the Lions run up the score on us. Let's focus on not allowing the Vikings to run up the score on us, or focus on Jalen Hurts' accuracy. He improved on his accuracy. So I love how this is still a young team, and it's still going to have flaws. Not going to be perfect, but it's really exciting to see that they're playing this good with this young of a roster with so many new pieces, so young, lack of experience playing together, lack of experience playing in general to like form. So I'm if they're going to get some of those kinks out, I would rather get those kinks out early on and still win.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
we're getting those kinks out and still winning. Like it's like the
Yeah,
best
and
case scenario, you know?
going back to the Colts and like what Frank Reich has been saying is like, yeah, this happens to a lot of teams every year. You know, you go from worst to first, and it's just like, well, then there's also teams that don't have to do that. They are
Mhm.
able to get their kinks out of the way early and still win.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that has never been the case for the Colts. They've always just gone off to rough starts,
Mhm.
and I think that's the difference between a fake Super Bowl contender and a real one. Those who are able to actually fight through those I don't know, bad habits or like the bad decision making, you know, the rookies getting their first starts, their first games, you know, being able to fight through that and still get the win, you know, in spite of all of the difficulties at the start of the year. That is the sign of a good team. And yeah, I think the Eagles have been getting that under control, because I mean last year was looking a little rough at the start of the
Yeah.
season, and then they started to make that comeback, and now they're starting off great, and we'll see if it can remain consistent through the season.
Hopefully it remains consistent. I hope, crossing my fingers. But yeah,
Now
we
it's
talk-
time.
we talked so long about.
Oh yeah, it's
MVP.
bad. So now it's time to speed run MVP race. Honorable mentions: Aaron Rodgers. He's been turning over the ball a little bit more than he usually does. Not a lot of touchdowns, but I think that's more his wide receivers. But he's been winning. Well, he won one game. I should say he's been winning, but he won a game, and they seem like they're getting back on the right track. Still an accurate guy, throwing for a decent amount of yards. I think mainly I put him on here because like I know he'll be fine. He's gonna be a top 10 person on this list no matter what. Then you got Kyler Murray, who, I mean, he's strictly just been getting the stats because he has to. Yet he's been coming from behind, and they've been able to have a lot of offensive plays just due to teams kind of going up big against them early. So he's been looking good. Like I know I said a lot of bad things about the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray has been looking good. He's been like the one guy that is actually pulling his weight, I feel like. Despite all those contract things where he had to do his homework and stuff like that. What everyone was saying about how poorly he was performing for the Cardinals, like not what it looks like right now. He looks like he's one of the only good things. Next, we have Trevor Lawrence.
But that hurts you.
I think he's been actually really good. Even if the Colts weren't playing garbage, I think he still would have played good. I think what's his name? Doug Peterson is the right coach for him. I think that is going to be a relationship that really blossoms. And he might still stay on this list through the weeks. I know their team is still rough. Don't get this week's win. Don't let this week's win get you wrong. Like they're still a rough looking team in a lot of areas. So it's gonna have to overcome that. But yeah. It's finally trending up for him after a really rough first year. Then you have Joe Flacco. And this is not really a fluke either. He actually has just been playing really good. 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He has the most completions and passing attempts. That has given him a lot of yards. He's been good.
Yeah.
Crazy enough.
I just never would have thought that I would see Joe Flacco's in the state again.
2022, man. What a wild time. Daniel Jones is also here. He made it out of honorable mentions from last week because he had a decent game of game managing. And he's 2-0. And that's about it. Other than that, I don't think he's been amazing. It's just, he's been doing what he needs to do. So, and there hasn't, this is a very top heavy list where the top 6 look amazing and then everyone else kind of looks like decent. They just kind of fill up the list. So Carson Wentz took a little bit of a hit after his loss. Went down from 6 to 8. Yeah, he went from 6 to 8. Thrown a lot of touchdowns. He also has 3 interceptions though. So that's kind of it's going to catch up to him. The recklessness. Right now he's been playing against teams that have been letting it happen, letting his big plays actually work, but it's not going to stay consistent. Just wait. I still think he'll be decent. I don't think he'll be as bad as he was with the Colts or his last season with the Eagles. But he's not going to be an MVP candidate for too much longer. At least that's my prediction.
I agree with that prediction.
Jared Goff is new on the list as well. Made it all the way up to 7 because 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Yeah. I mean, a triple digit passer rating over 2 games. He's just been doing good. He hasn't been very accurate, but still he's been a reason for one of the highest scoring offenses. They haven't been scoring in spite of him. They've been scoring because he's actually helping, he's making plays, whether you like it or not. Maybe it's not as consistent as you'd like him to. Maybe they're not as explosive as they could be in the hands of another quarterback, but it's happening one way or another. Next, we have Jalen Hurts.
Hey, yo.
From 9 to 6, still, despite being a really high-scoring offense, I'm not seeing too much of that on his part. Obviously, last game was really good, but then he had a scoreless second half. I think we're going to need to see a bit more games such as Tua's or Josh Allen's where he's just really scoring out of his mind from beginning to end. And that's going to require a bit more challenging from the other teams they're facing. Yeah, I just think he's been really good, very accurate, of course, which is really surprising. A lot of rushing yards, a lot of passing yards. But when you look at the guys above him and how much they've been scoring, how much they've been really contributing to that very important aspect of their offense, it's hard to put him over the likes of Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tua, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. It's just right now I can't say I can do that just yet, but as soon as he has a game or two like that, he's going to fly up the list. I'm sure of it. And it also helps that he's undefeated right now. So
yeah.
Next you have Justin Herbert. Obviously not the outcome you would have wanted against the Chiefs, but one of them had to lose. Yeah, I mean Justin Herbert's playing good.
Unstoppable.
This MVP race is going to be crazy, man. He went from 2 to 5 despite a really solid performance. It's really just the fact that he lost that brought him all the way down here. So yeah, crazy. Lamar Jackson, dude, is actually he's scoring, and not just on his feet, with his arm, a lot more than we usually see from him. Tua also scoring a lot. And then you have Josh Allen at 2, who has, I think he's realistically my favorite, but statistically wise, if that's what we're going off of, I have to put only one other person above him. But yeah, I mean, this whole range of Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tua, Josh Allen, it's insane. The only person that can top all of them performing out of their fucking minds. I think all of those guys I just listed have other than Jalen Hurts, have 7 touchdowns or something like that, whether that's pass or run, just total. The only person I can put above all of that is Patrick Mahomes, because he's the only one out of this entire list that hasn't thrown an interception. And he still has scored the same amount as everyone else. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big part. Not turning the ball over, important. So As long as he keeps that up, no one will be able to surpass him. Or maybe if he loses, that would be a reason why he gets dropped. Yeah, at this rate, no one's going to be able to beat him until he throws an interception. And we know how September is. He never does. So it's going to have to wait.
And the crazy part is that he only's been sacked once, and he only has 4 rushing yards, which means that he's starting to like stay in the pocket more, which is also very scary to
It
think
means that he
about.
hasn't had to try, Caleb.
Yeah, yeah,
Against a Chargers defense.
yeah,
And I mean, the Cardinals defense has been looking great. Don't get me wrong, but they're still decent.
yeah,
Like, it's not like he's been playing the bottom half of the league of defenses. Like, he's still been playing good defenses, and he hasn't had to try.
yeah. And yeah, there's still like it's crazy. Like he's at this, if he keeps this rate, it's like easy like
Mhm.
MVP. But it's just like the top 5 is like so scary just because of how much they're scoring. Like it's just crazy with all of this. It's
Yeah.
insane, the performance of the quarterbacks that we're seeing, and it's good. It's good because I feel like the past, before Josh Allen started to like take off, I feel like we haven't really had a. No, we've had quarterbacks. Let me rephrase this. This is like the next generation of quarterbacks, and it's really exciting to see who's coming on top. Because like I'm tired of Tom Brady running the league, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. I mean, they're classic. Philip Rivers, Peyton Manning. The list can go on, but like, it's exciting to see this next generation of quarterbacks. I don't know. I feel like all the older quarterbacks are.
Yeah, they're really
They're
starting
done.
to decline now. You don't see
Yeah.
Tom Brady on the list, Russell Wilson,
Yeah,
um,
I'm trying
Matt
to
Ryan,
remember.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
all
guess
those
Joe.
guys.
Yeah,
The only
I
one
guess-
represented is like Joe Flacco
yeah,
and Aaron
and
Rodgers.
yeah, but it's like crazy. Like that old generation of quarterbacks is basically gone. It's
Why?
kind of sad, but relieving at the same time.
They are in good hands, though. The NFL.
I agree.
There's so much more football to be played.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway,
speaking of more football to be played, we have week 3 coming up. A lot of cool matchups. One of the matchups that isn't so cool is Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. This is going to be one that I might sleep through. Who do you got?
I got Pittsburgh, and I realized that I forgot to go through. So I have Pittsburgh, but could you show yours so that I could just get a head start on predicting? I apologize.
You're telling me I have to talk about this matchup?
Just for like 2 or 3 minutes. Just
2 or 3 minutes?
okay. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Jacoby Brissett is questionable. I don't think it's anything serious. I think this might be the game where Kenny Pickett might start playing. He probably won't start, but he could play. The Browns get off to a really good start, and with their defense, they might. You have to remember that no matter how bad Jacoby Brissett is, that run game is unstoppable with Kareem and Nick Chubb, and that offensive line. They're crazy good. So even the best of defenses, as good as Steelers are, they're going to struggle with that. And I think the Steelers will quickly realize, like, yeah, gotta give the rookie some chances to really take over now. So this could be the game. I'm thinking.
All right, cool. See, that's all you needed to do. That's all. Thank you for stalling for a little bit. But
Chicago, Houston.
I got picked, but yeah, I got Houston winning just because of how they've been performing the past couple weeks, and I don't know. This is one of my, not the biggest upset I don't think that I have this week, but it's one of the upsets. I like to pick a few just to stir up the pot a little bit, and just how, I don't know if it's because of how bad the Colts and Broncos are playing. I don't know how much that put into effect of it, but Houston is looking a little bit better than what they've been the past couple of years, and making games out of just making games, like actually like close and stuff, and Chicago got that week 1 win against the 49ers, but they got destroyed against the Packers. 2 completely different situations. But I don't know. I just feel like somehow this is going to be close again, and Houston's going to win and going to be 1-1-1. But yeah.
Nah. Houston's been playing for odds or teams performing less to their standard.
Mhm.
Chicago has been playing to their standard in both games, and so that's how they'll approach it this next one.
But I
Titans
got-
Raiders.
I got
Who do you
Ten-
got?
I got Tennessee.
Why?
I don't know, bro. I was
Both of these teams are 0-2, and it's weird.
Yeah, I was literally just about to switch my answer to the Raiders, but I'm like, that's when I switch it, that's when the Titans are gonna win, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
proven wrong. So I'm not going to switch it, but I think they're going to win solely on Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is gonna go off. I think he's gonna explode this game, and I think he's going to make Ryan Tannehill look better. And I think little bit of a prediction here, or an upset prediction. I think Ryan Tannehill is gonna get injured, not a serious injury. He's gonna get like just out for the game. Like he's gonna get out for the game for like a concussion or just like turf toe or something. Well, turf toe is a little bit serious, but just for a game. Willis is gonna come in. He's going to beat the Raiders, and then he's going to start the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think the Raiders will beat them. It'll be close, but Ryan Tannehill will just kind of coast through. I think Derrick Henry could still go off, but I think one of these teams has to be 0-3, and I think Titans have looked worse than the Raiders so far. So that's where I'm at.
Then we got
Colts, first home game. They have the Chiefs. We both have Colts winning. I've already kind of explained why, but would you like to go into it?
literally the same reason why you picked the Colts, or the why you explained the Colts earlier, and just I have so much insight on the Colts now, as being like close to for being friends with you, and just of how, because like I've paid attention a lot more to the Colts than I think I would ever. Like I don't think I would ever pay attention to the Colts as much as I am.
Not
now-
because of Frank Reich, not because of Nick Foles, not because of Rodney McLeod.
Nah, not even
None of
Carson Wentz. Maybe I would pay attention a little bit to that season, but like I wouldn't know the ins and outs like I do from you, because like I feel like I would have like a surface level understanding of the Colts, but since you're a Colts fan, I feel like I have a more knowledge on how the Colts operate. So for the exact reason why you said earlier, is why I have it, because it's a game that they're going to win, that they not that they have no place winning or that they shouldn't win.
They don't have a place winning it. You can say it.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah,
deserve to win this game,
yeah.
but they will.
Mhm.
And I think it's also a matter of film, because all teams are going to prepare differently for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have looked good, so you know what to expect from the Chiefs. We really don't know what to expect from the Colts because they haven't played up to their expectation. So when the Chiefs prepare for the Colts, what are they going to look at? They're not going to prepare for a garbage team. If they do, they're in the wrong for that. But they also can't over prepare for them because they just don't have any good film of Matt Ryan leading that team, other than like a couple drives in the fourth quarter of the Texans game. I think it's going to be difficult. It's a trap game, basically. It's a trap game for the Chiefs. I think it'll still be close. I think it'll actually be low scoring for some reason. That's my prediction. Colts will somehow make it through.
It's gonna be an interesting game nonetheless.
Yeah,
Well,
Buffalo, Dolphins. We both have Buffalo.
this was the hardest decision that I made, because I don't know. I can see the Dolphins winning, and I can also see the Bills winning. But the reason why I picked the Bills is because the Dolphins have to come back by 28 points against the Ravens to win. That's a rarity. Like you're not going to come back 28 points to win, and to have the Ravens go up by that many points is, I don't know. Like if not the Ravens, it's Ravens have a high power offense, but Buffalo has even more of a high powered offense than the Ravens. So if the Ravens can put up 38 points, then I feel like the Buffalo Bills can put up that many points, but then hold a lead. Like you're not going to be able to come back against the Bills like you did against the Ravens, because they have they have a more structured defense and more disciplined defense than the Ravens. And I just think that's
you gotta hope you stop Josh Allen early. I think the Dolphins defense, even though what they put on tape this week wasn't great, letting Lamar Jackson do Lamar Jackson things, but it's still a good defense that has done very well against really good quarterbacks notoriously. I mean, that defensive back room is just really talented overall. So I think they could theoretically stop them early and then hold a lead, Miami, but they haven't been really able to prove that is really their identity. So until they do that, I have no reason to put Miami over Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. But then we got Detroit versus Minnesota Vikings. I got Detroit winning. I don't know how much of an upset this is, but I still think it's a upset nonetheless.
At this point, I don't even think it's an upset.
Really? Yeah.
You know, their game against Washington was the first time Detroit was like favored against a team in a really long time, in like multiple seasons.
Damn,
Pretty
that's
crazy.
crazy.
But yeah, I think Lions are favored to win this game, but I think Vikings, after the beatdown they just got, are just going to come back so much harder. And I just don't think the Lions have an answer in their defensive back room for Justin Jefferson in the same way the Eagles do.
Yeah.
So I think he's just going to torch him. Because Lions are it's going to be very high scoring. That's my prediction. I know I predicted that for the Eagles Vikings, but I forgot how good both those defenses still are. Lions Vikings, very different situation. That's going to be high scoring because I don't have a lot of trust in the Lions offense as much. I mean defense, the Lions defense as much as the Vikings or the Eagles. But that Detroit offense is still going to do some work against that Vikings defense. So yeah,
I was just about to say if they can't, I don't think they're going to be able to control that three-headed monster in Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook. I mean, I don't even know if you want to loop Kirk Cousins into that trio, or even make a trio of that three calibers. But Detroit,
no, yeah, I mean it's fine.
But even like Detroit showing that they can score and score a lot, their defense still gave up a shit ton of yardage and points.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens versus the New England Patriots. I got the Baltimore Ravens winning.
I do too. Patriots don't look good, honestly.
They do not.
Like in some areas, of course, they have really talented rooms, but overall, they're kind of dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Just well coached overall, but so are the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. And even though the Ravens lost last week, they should have won that game. And I think they're going to have even more vengeance losing that game because that entire team knows for a fact that they should have won that game, and they're going to be upset by the fact that they lost. So I think it may even be a domination on the Ravens' part.
Could be.
Yeah.
Then we got Jets, Cincinnati. This will be Bengals' first win. I don't see the Jets beating them here. They got their cool win against the Browns. You gotta let Bengals have one early in the season. No way they go down 0-3. Jets will have more wins in the future, but this won't be one of them.
I agree. Same reasons. And Joe Burrow has a vengeance on him. He doesn't like losing.
You don't want Joe Burrow as a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. But then you
got Philadelphia
versus Washington. You're
going to Wentz territory, huh?
Yeah, I'm personally more scared to play against the Commanders than I am the Vikings. One, because it's divisional. We always struggle in divisional games. Two, Carson Wentz. I feel like Carson Wentz is going to have a chip on his shoulder. And Carson Wentz has been playing solid. He's been playing, even though he's been throwing interceptions, which I think the Eagles will exploit. I think Wentz is still dangerous with Curtis Samuel and McLaurin as his receivers. If we don't stop that, then Gibson can run up and down the field on us. So I just feel like this could be a trap game too, even though it's not really choppy because I feel like, I don't know, like Washington's been playing good. Eagles have been playing good. I don't know. I think we need a complete team performance like we did against the Vikings to have this, because every part of that team needs to play well. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. I don't want to rant too long.
Washington is going to win one of these matchups against Philadelphia. It's either now or in November. And I think that they would have a better chance of doing it now, but at the same time, I'm not going to predict against a red hot Eagles team because they're now on their streak. I'm not going to predict against them when they're on their streak. So I got Eagles.
Yeah. What next game? New Orleans Saints versus Carolina Panthers. I got the Saints.
Panthers will be the first team to fire a coach, and it's going to be Matt Rule, of course. Colts are going to hold out hope because they're dumb. Panthers will beat them to it. And who knows? Maybe it'll happen after this 0-3 start. I have no hope for that team to beat the Saints.
He has a total of 3 years coaching. He's 10-25.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, that's not good at all. But yeah, I just wanted to look up that quick statistic. But next game is the Chargers against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hold on, I have to.
All right, cool. As he's talking, I think his mom came in. But as he's finishing up that conversation, I'll explain why I got the Chargers winning. Come on, it's Jacksonville. Jacksonville they're not as good as they were last week. They're frauds. Chargers have been red hot, even though the Chargers, yeah, they're still red hot. Even though they lost last week, they did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. Come on, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the league, top 3 team of that. I think personally the Bills are a little bit better than the Chiefs, but it's going to be interesting to see that matchup in the next few weeks. But yeah, this is an easy dub. I think the Tytoos is going to say the same thing, and he changed rooms. He teleported.
I did teleport.
Yeah, but
You're
yeah,
saying that this is going to be an easy game for who?
the Chargers, because
Yeah.
Jaguars are frauds, and
Chargers deserve to be undefeated. Realistically, it could suck if Herbert. I don't know if it's confirmed if Herbert's going to be playing or not.
Oh,
He is questionable, I think, and Keenan Allen still might not be back, so could be a little difficult. But I still think Jacksonville's bad. So
yeah, I didn't even know Herbert was questionable. Next game is Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. I got the Los Angeles Rams winning this one.
Rams all day. Oh
All
my
day.
gosh.
Cardinals-
I mean, Rams have not looked great, but the Cardinals,
Look worse,
yeah.
way worse, so bad. They look so bad. What great analysis that was. Rams, mediocre. Arizona Cardinals, bad. Rams win.
Hey, what
next-
about this?
Atlanta Falcons versus Seattle Seahawks. We both got the Falcons
We
winning.
got
Hey,
Atlanta. That's
Hey,
nice. Atlanta's will get their first win. I actually kind of like Atlanta's offense. It hasn't been performing how it should be, but I think Drake London has been performing pretty well.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts still needs to get involved, but as soon as he does, it's just I think it could be really dangerous with Cordell Patterson. And Marcus Mariota is doable, I still think. So
Yeah, that offense is a lot more scarier than I thought, at least. Or it's
yeah.
to be a lot more scarier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really just depending on how fast Drake London could get acclimated to the NFL, and so far he's been looking fine. By the
Yeah,
way, thanks for him in fantasy. That's nice.
you're welcome. I saw that you picked him up. He got 20 points, 8 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got Green Bay Packers versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got Green Bay Packers winning. Who you got?
I also have the Green Bay Packers. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like how Tom Brady has been playing. I think it's going to be close and ugly for both offenses, but Packers will clutch out the win somehow.
I agree.
Probably in the run game.
Yeah, I feel like the Packers are going to dominate in time of possession and just leave Tom Brady with little to no time, which he can do a lot with little to no time, but it's going to be a little to no time with a 10-point deficit or a 17-point deficit where it's going to be almost impossible to come back from. But yeah.
Yeah, now you got another familiar face coming back to San Francisco. Russell Wilson just going through all his favorite NFC West teams this season. First season outside of it, and yet he still has to play him. So I got San Francisco because Denver has not looked good. San Francisco has looked good. despite losing their starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's it's basically they lost their starting quarterback for their previous starting quarterback the past few years.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They're not going to be 13-4 like you think, but
Don't you worry, they will be. It'll be shocking. But yeah, got Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants. Got the Cowboys winning. This is one of the only times that I was
yeah, what the fuck?
that I would sadly be rooting for the Cowboys to win because Giants are 2-0. I hate this so much, but I need the Cowboys to win because the
Let's go Giants. They're going to go 3-0. The worst 3-0 team of all time. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just need the Giants to lose. But I guess all I really need is the Eagles to keep winning. And yeah. So fantasy real quick. Tytoos dominated the league. He got 174 points. He had like what 4 players over 30.
Yeah, no big deal.
No
Just
big
a
deal.
typical Sunday.
But yeah, Tytoos is 2-0. I lost my match. I got dominated. I don't even think I went over 100 points in this game, or in this matchup. But you know, this was my off week, and I'm gonna have a couple off weeks, but I'm gonna rebound. I'm gonna dominate the league after this. But in my other league, I won at least. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have not much to say other than my receivers underperformed.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but another note is that Tytoos is the best league manager in the entire world.
I am literally so good. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm the greatest of all time.
Damn, you're going to go back to back to back championships.
I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame after 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
How does it feel that you're going to have this much hype and then lose to a 7-8 disgruntled team?
Could happen. Nice thing about playoffs is that it's a 2-week thing. So even if you get me 1 week, I'm sure I'll bounce back the next. But so yeah, I'm pretty confident that that won't happen overall. But it could be close. You could make it close, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm gonna come back and win the championship. Just you wait.
All right.
I'm gonna do it in the most sloppiest manner of all time. It's gonna be stressful, but I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be
No,
worth it.
yeah, I believe you'll make the playoffs at least. But
Yeah. My goal is just to make the playoffs. I didn't make the playoffs last year. Okay.
so, yeah, you gotta do it this year.
Yeah.
It's harder though. There's 10 teams and still only 4 spots.
Yeah. Bro, but my other fantasy, I'm fucking killing it. I'm fucking destroying my other fantasy, which is giving me a little hope.
Who helped you draft?
Yeah. Huh?
You came to me.
Yes. Hey, it was only the last couple ones. I drafted.
Well, that's where it matters the most.
That is true. That's why I went to you. I'm like, I'm bad in the late rounds. You're good in the late rounds. Who do I pick?
Mm-hmm.
And try to block out the sun. No,
Everyone down and out about Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I have him.
Who was the one who took the chance on him, saying he won't fall off from last year? He's actually going to exceed all expectations. It was me.
It was you. You believed in him when no one else did.
No one else did.
No one else believed in him as much as you believed in him. I don't even think his dad.
I have him in every league.
Really?
Every single one.
Waiver report. League home. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
You want to trade for him?
I'm good. Do you want to trade DeAndre Hopkins for?
I'll
Brown?
take Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams for him and Colts defense. And then I think it's pretty even, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. If you just throw in Jonathan Taylor in there too,
Oh
then
no! I think it's even as is.
no. I would do that if Jonathan Taylor is on the board.
Yeah, well then you're just going to get the two best players in the league, and then the Colts defense.
Yeah.
Just for
I-
free, like what?
What do you mean for free? You get Cooper Cup and Devontae Adams. I feel like
Who?
Cooper Cup is putting up 25 plus points each game. Devontae Adams, maybe not so much, but he has potential.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is putting up 30 points each game.
So Jonathan Taylor and Devontae Adams as now is even. You know, they had one off game, they had one explosive game. Cooper Cup and Brown exploding. I don't think Brown's gonna keep that consistent.
Whoa.
I'm just saying that so
I'm
that you.
ending it. I'm ending it. I'm leaving.
I'm just
Stop
saying
the
that so
recording.
that-
I'm leaving.
I'm just saying that.
I'm leaving.
Saying that now.
I'm leaving.
Put on so you don't come
leaving.
back so that you trade him to me.
I'm leaving.
He's gonna keep up that streak, and that's why I want him.
I'm leaving.
All right, I'm ending the recording now, bitch. Bye.
Bye.